Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another broadcast of Respond Accordingly, where this space has been created so we can help you, help ourselves cultivate healthy responses to life's experiences. And as I say, especially those that are outside of your and our control. So, with that being said, here we are together again. My name, for those of you who don't know, is Michelle Collins, and I love to focus on emotional mastery as it pertains to women's lives. I believe that our emotions live in our spirit, which then affects our choices, our attitude, as well as our behaviors. Then again, those behaviors and choices and attitude come from our experiences and how we process them or how we do not process them effectively and healthily. So with that being said, Respond Accordingly is here to help us respond to those things that are people, places, and things that have affected us in a way that sometimes changes the trajectory of our life, but it just affects all of our life, every facet, our relationships, our business endeavors, our mindset, just every area of our life. And how can we continue to get whole? And like the cards that we get for those that are physically sick, get well soon. That really does start with our own responsibility. Taking that personal responsibility of our own healing, not depending on anyone to do that for us. So we're in the middle, part 2 of a series on hurt people who hurt people and hurt people who have been hurt by hurt people. Okay. And so with that being said, I have with us my friend, my sister, Dr. Michelle R. Hanna. And I want, first of all, to welcome you again to the platform and to the broadcast. But also, can you take a minute and just introduce yourself to the audience?
So, like she said, she is absolutely my sister for sure. I'm Dr. Michelle R. Hanna, and my latest book is The Self Vows. So, I am so committed to taking those self vows to ourselves and executing the actions that connect with that every day. I help couples and singles emotionally heal, connect deeper through intimacy, and ultimately live authentically. I also help businesses actually connect to their authentic self and to connect more intimately and deeper with their clients and their customers. So honestly, for me, it's about relationships and it's about the deeper connection and just really knowing yourself each and every day more and more and not being afraid of the challenge.
Absolutely. Not being afraid of the challenge. So here we go, Dr. Michelle. All right. We're formal, but yet it's a conversation as authentic as we do it. This is like you and I are on the telephone having a conversation, but we really want you that are in the audience and even our replay viewers, shout out to you. I always want to do that, to take notes. And if something resonates with you, put it in the comments, ask a question. It's all about healing because, as we've said, if one of us aren't well, then all of us aren't well. But if one of us gets on a path of healing, then it will continue to have that domino effect that we so desperately need in our individual lives, as well as with everyone else that connects to us. So we are here to talk about being hurt. Being hurt. There are people that wear it as a banner. There are people that suppress it, just various things. But every one of us, 100% of us can say that we have been hurt in life in some form or fashion by somebody somewhere. It's been said that usually when you're hurt, it's by someone that you know. It's kind of harder to be hurt by someone you don't know or have a connection or relationship with because you know why? Like, who cares? You don't know me. So there's that. But we're talking about, last time we were together, we talked about what a hurt person who hurts others looks like. And we really went there by even expanding our own capacity to have empathy for those who hurt other people. Now, tonight, this evening, what we want to talk about is we are the ones, the recipients of hurt. And what does that look like for us and how to navigate it all? So I guess the first thing that, I want to say before we begin with the first question is, please know that pain, hurt, offense is all unavoidable. Mm-hmm. But what is an option is to suffer in it and stay stuck in it. Mm-hmm. So now that we're clear on that, I am going to get hurt somewhere in life. Mm-hmm. But what I do with that remains to be seen throughout the rest of this conversation. All right. So the profile of a hurt person. But you know what? I want to ask you, I thought about this today. I hope you don't mind. But mm-hmm. Here's my first question to you. So it's, Monday evening. Can you just tell me like the last time that you have been hurt? Was it like an hour ago? Was it a couple of days ago? I just for the sake of the conversation, when was the last time you could say I was a recipient of hurt feelings?
I'm going to say that was Saturday.
Me too. Me too. So there you have it, folks. As recent as Saturday. So that means we were able to get through Sunday. We got through today. All right. That is really, really good. Okay. So I just wanted to kind of just see where we were with that. But let's talk about the profile of someone that has been the recipient of continual, perpetual hurt. What does that individual look like if we were able to identify them?
So, of course, with this series, I think I've taken the most notes that I've taken on topics that I've done in the last couple of years. I've taken the most notes on this one, maybe because it's so close to home, So I just want to read a little bit of my notes and what I have. So when I was thinking about the characteristics of a hurt person, I thought of someone being angry, someone being anxious, agitated, moody, withdrawn, isolated. And we talked about that actually last week, that they neglect self-care and that they engage in risky behavior. They are overwhelmed and they are sometimes overcome with hopelessness. So, and what I mean by overwhelmed by their circumstances.
So can you find yourself anywhere in there at any given time?
Yes,
right?
I can. I was literally just going to say to your audience, I know that you have felt this at some point in your life. And you know what's funny is when I was going through those characteristics of a person that was hurt, I was like, this kind of sounds like a little bit like menopause too.
Yeah, so there's that. Absolutely. So can we get some grace? Because I feel like I'm probably entering that season myself. So please, for anyone that has to connect with me or deal with me on any level, please give me some grace. Because I'm entering that season, and there you go. That is funny. Okay, so absolutely. All of those resonates with me as well. And I have my notes here because I think that, it's such a near and dear topic. We all experience hurt and all of those emotions at one time or another. What about what I said earlier, as far as usually you are hurt by someone that you are connected with? Why is that, in your opinion, so prevalent?
Because I think that we're more attached to it. We care. We care what they felt or what they did. and it affects us in such a deeper way. Because think about it, if it's your child, or if it's your mom or your father or your husband or your best friend, that's the one that hurt you, right? To the person that really doesn't know you, you kind of maybe pass at some events or something. You may say, hey, how you doing? But it's not a relationship. The people that we are in relationship with, those are the ones that get down to the core, of where the hurt, starts, or the effect of hurt starts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when I was thinking of what a hurt person, a person that has felt hurt, looks like, I thought about the word boundaries. I thought about the word boundaries. And in the sense that the reason why I felt hurt, right? I, speaking for whoever you are, and myself included, is because you felt like a boundary was crossed. Whether you express that boundary or you didn't, so you felt like a boundary was crossed, and you're like, hey, wait a minute. Even if you respond in that way, whether internally to yourself, or you express it through the other emotions that you talked about, verbally or non-verbally. So what do you feel about that? Do you feel that the reason why we suffer hurt is because someone somewhere violated or crossed our boundaries?
I think that, yes, to answer your question, and I think then the conversation becomes the depth of the hurt. Because if we think that the person that crossed the boundary knew it was a boundary, we've communicated it was a boundary, we've commuted the consequence of the boundary, and they did it anyway, then the hurt is even deeper. Because then it's, not only did you cross the boundary, but then I feel betrayed. Then I feel dismissed. Then I feel unheard. And then all of those things then begin to kind of pile up on top of each other. Now, the accountability of it is that if I didn't express the boundary to you, I knew it, I kept it to myself, but I didn't tell you. So you didn't know. Maybe that's just the way you move. That's the way you act. That's your tone all the time. You didn't know that I was sensitive to you having a very sarcastic demeanor, with me, or you didn't know that it was a secret. You talked to everybody about everything. So you didn't know that I was talking to you about something in confidence, and it was a boundary of mine. So I think that when we know the person knew it was a boundary and they were aware of the consequence and they still did it, that's when the hurt, I believe, goes to that deep level of hurt, because then you start to feel betrayed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to speak to both for a minute, because I think both happens, especially it's familiar to me. So, and maybe others as well. And, and that's okay. But let's talk about boundaries that are unexpressed. I don't know if it's because you haven't had time to relay what that boundary is for yourself, or you didn't have an opportunity or an occasion to bring up that boundary, or maybe you're shy, you don't know how to find your voice or use your voice. But there's so many scenarios of why your boundary might not be able to be expressed, and here you are hurt. So for someone that has been hurt because they have been unable to express their boundary, how should they navigate that? Because the feeling of hurt is still there for them, and the perpetrator may or may not be aware. Many times in conversations, you may hear things that sound like, well, I had no idea. I had no idea. How would I know? I had no idea. But can I tell you that happens more often than not, because a lot of people have ended relationships based on an unexpressed boundary that they felt was crossed. So I want to help that person And I want to bring some understanding to even those who might be, you know, on the receiving end of, you hurt me because I don't like people talking about my business. And here you are. And you're like, but I talk about everybody's business. I had no idea, you know, to use your example. So I want to help both of those individuals. What should a person, how should they show up in the world? If you know you are not necessarily, you know, and it's in my notes, but I'll say this right here, that part of emotional mastery is emotional intelligence. Part of emotional intelligence is the ability to express your emotions and communicate them. That's what you do. It's not so much how the person will receive it, but at least putting yourself in a position that you are sharing for knowledge and understanding with whoever is interacting with you. Listen, this is what it is, right? Not everyone has that. So how should a person show up in the world who feels like, I don't go around expressing my boundaries or telling everybody how I am? You know, how should they show up and yet they get hurt?
Well, I think you're actually
Go around.
saying it without saying it, which is the fact that anybody that is on this call right now, that they say, yes, that resonates with me. I don't know how to set a boundary. What is a boundary? What's the first step to even setting a boundary? So I think that if you realize that there's a lack of setting boundaries, first you have to identify, what does that look like for me? So let's say, for example, I think we might have said this even on the last call, but I'll use the example that I always use, is that maybe a boundary of mine is, you don't get to yell at me when communicating. And the consequence of that boundary is, I will shut down. I will walk away. We won't get anything resolved. You might feel dismissed and might feel hurt because of the consequence, right? Because you crossed that boundary. Okay. So it's first setting the boundary. Your boundaries are the non-negotiable. So
Correct.
think about that, is that what are the things that are your non-negotiables? And I really truly believe boundaries always have to have a consequence, so that people understand that it's pretty important when you cross the boundary, because sometimes we'll have a boundary and then we won't have a consequence, or we have a consequence and we don't execute it. So the person is just like, oh yeah, okay, I know what her boundary is, I know what the consequence is, but she's still gonna, like, you know, be cool. She's still gonna be my friend. She's still not gonna call me out. You know, I'm still gonna get to do what I do, right? I'm not gonna have to change my behavior, you know, because she doesn't ensure that I respect the boundary. So that's the first thing that I would say for people to do, is to set your non-negotiables and set what the consequence is. The second thing is, you got to use your voice. I know it's not easy for those of us that use our voices all the time. I use my voice all the time. You know, Pastor Michelle, Pastor and Coach Michelle, you know, she uses her voice all the time. But there are people out there that have lost their voice. They don't even know how to find it, how to use it, how to unleash it again, you know. And so I think that we definitely have to give grace to those people that may not be as talkative and not as confident, you know, in expressing. So maybe you're not. How about you write it down, you know, and then you give it to the person and you say, any questions? You know, after you.
That's good. That is
Yeah.
Yeah, any questions, you can text it, email it, you know. We won't talk about that on this broadcast, but I am queen email when it has to get to that point. You know, I've been told by the recipient, you know, I'm just expressing. But anyway, so here's the thing about boundaries and expressing them the way you can. There are so many times when a boundary has been crossed and you did not express what your boundaries were. You've been hurt and you still have not expressed that you were hurt because your boundary was crossed. Now, we're making the assumption that these are things that are happening with those that you know and are connected and familiar with, and they are familiar with you. And that's even, it still happens, right? Because it takes time to build relationship and really get to know one another that you're connected to. So I guess my question is, how should you, is it fair for an individual that is hurt because their boundary was crossed, but you have not expressed it, to still carry the hurt and go away without ever sharing with the individual? Is there ever a time when you say, you know what, it doesn't even matter, my boundary was crossed and that's enough for me. You know what, no one gets to yell at me. You yelled. I don't even tell you to stop. I don't even give you another opportunity. I'm just gone. You'll be like, where did she go? Where did he go? So is that a proper way to handle hurt?
Well, I will say that, you know, 15 years ago, that was definitely where I resided, is in that. Like, if you weren't really close to me, where I felt I needed to have a conversation with you, and you crossed that boundary and it stung, right? I would just, well, you know what? I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't want your energy around me. I guess you don't want maybe even my energy. It's fine. It's okay. It's almost like I would just erase it as if it had never happened. Mm-hmm. And I will be honest, that was definitely me back then. Yeah. That's just how I dealt with it. And then there has been moments, even, since this, 20 years of just, growing and evolving and all of this and getting to this point today, there has been some moments where I still handled it like that, So I want to just be accountable and let you know, if anybody out there handled it in that way or is handling it in that way, is that I did that, and it is not the way. I'll tell you that. That what ends up happening is this. You'll think that it doesn't bother you, maybe. In that moment, like it doesn't bother you for the long haul, but then something will happen and it will trigger it. Now, if you are accountable, really wanting to be accountable of being a better you and a more authentic you won't let yourself off the hook, and you'll ask the question, wait a minute, why did that hurt me? Like, why am I feeling some kind of way about that? Or why did that move me to tears? And as you begin to really ask yourself these questions, you'll find yourself going back to all those little things you thought you erased. And then they come on up to the surface and you're like, wait, I thought I just walked away and I was like, done. No, it hurt you. So yes, I absolutely believe, and it's a part of unforgiveness too. Because sometimes we think just because we erase the person and we don't think about them no more, that, oh no, I'm fine. I don't not forgive them. It's like, until something happens that then triggers that emotion, right? So I think it's better to just, you know what, if you're hurt about something, even if you convince yourself, oh, this is silly, I shouldn't go to this person or they're going to think it's silly. No, I think you should definitely is go to that person and get an understanding, because maybe like, Michelle said, that person didn't even know this is how they get down. This is how they live their life. It's like, they didn't even know that they hurt you. They didn't know what you said. They're still thinking that we're cool. That's still my friend over there. And you have went on and like, that is not my friend. And they don't even know that they are not your friend
They
no
don't know
more.
you broke up with them.
They
Okay.
don't even know that, yes, that you broke up with them, right? And so I think that, and I'm not saying that if it is best for you to
Mhm.
where, because everybody's not for you, that's okay, but if it is best that, you over there, hey, see you, but we're not in like the circle, right? If that's best for you, then fine. However, be
Mhm.
truthful with yourself. If
Yes.
it really is bothering you, have a conversation about it. And you and I talk about this all the time about capacity,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes the person that you may go to
I know
may
where you're
not
going.
have the capacity to do adulting and mature conversation, right? And
Correct.
so at that point, I think you then have to really think about um you and what is going to be best for even your self-love, your healthy, your
Yeah.
sanity,
Your
all
peace.
of that,
Mhm.
your peace, right?
Mhm.
So sometimes you have to come to peace with yourself and reconcile it with yourself, because maybe that other person that you're coming to them with a good heart, with like, let's talk about this and kumbaya. And they're like, rah, rah, just as soon as you open your mouth and you like, whoa, and then that
Exactly.
may trigger something, so yeah,
Absolutely. And then that's when the relationship really goes,
yes.
disastrous. And you
Mhm.
really break up. Well, now I know why we broke up
Now I
because
know. No, we broke up.
right. We broke up because you blew up,
Right.
So yeah, I think that is so, so, so good because, and you addressed it all. Not all the time will we have an opportunity to have these conversations, kumbaya conversations about expressing our boundaries and how we were hurt and what it did to us and just trying to get our understanding, because sometimes it does allow or cause the other person to become defensive, especially if they feel like they did nothing wrong. No one
Yeah.
has ever checked them in that area. No one has ever brought it up to their attention, or they justify it in other ways. So I think it's so important. I love the word that you said, Dr. Michelle, about reconciliation, because that is a word that has been, I might even do just like a separate thing on this. It's been in my spirit, if I could say that, for the past week and a half. Reconciliation, because there's so many layers to it. But when you have been hurt, since this is a topic we're talking about, you have to reconcile with yourself first before you can reconcile or expect anyone to reconcile with you. If
Yes.
you don't reconcile with yourself, it will be impossible to reconcile with somebody else. And let me
Yes.
break down what I mean by reconciliation. It does not necessarily mean that the relationship will go back to what it used to be or what you dream that it should be,
Mm.
It could just mean exactly what we talked about and you mentioned, peace and harmony in your life and taking the high road. It could mean any one of those things. But you have to feel those things in yourself first, even before you approach the individual about the hurt that you feel was perpetrated on you by them. If you go in the wrong attitude, wrong spirit, it's just not going to work. So the
Yeah.
first individual that you must reconcile with is yourself. That's why it's not always wise to not wait.
Mhm.
Let some time pass, not too much, because we don't want
Mhm.
you to stuff it and repress it, but
Mhm.
let some time pass, calm down, and maybe think about capacity.
Mhm.
You're ready and you're building yourself up, even if you feel like you don't have the capacity. I hear people say all the time, well, the old me would have. No, no, no. We don't want to see the old you. We want
Right.
you to keep working and evolving on the you should be, you deserve to
Right.
be, and we deserve to see. But think about capacity. If you know that this individual, don't even test it, because we do that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
we do that because we feel maybe like I deserve to be heard. You
Mhm,
deserve to know how you hurt me. Do they?
mhm,
Because
mhm.
that's taking another level of energy out of you on top of being hurt, on top of navigating that hurt. Now it takes real stamina, to bring this to the individual and hoping that they are able to receive it in the same spirit that you are giving it.
I think you just said something in terms of hurt. I think it's important that we realize if we're hurt or if we're just offended by something, right? Because if you said something that just like offended me and or that I didn't agree with, right? And it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but that's your opinion, right? That's your personal opinion. And there's nothing that I can do about your personal opinion. All I can do is perhaps think about it from another perspective, me being more open. I still may not agree with it, but I may just think about it from another perspective. That's different than you hurt me,
Uh-huh.
right? And hurt
Uh-huh.
is the first emotion.
Yeah.
Anger is the secondary emotion. We think it's turned around sometimes. We're like, no, 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 I'm not hurt. I'm mad, but I'm not hurt. It's like, yeah, no, the first emotion is hurt.
Mhm.
Then now your hurt can go from 1 to 10 to anger. Yeah, right. But it's really the second emotion is when it moves to anger. And I think when it moves to anger, that's when you do need to take a moment
Mhm.
and you really need to calm and
Mhm.
get balance
Correct.
because I've said or I've regretted the things that sometimes I have said to in conversations when I was like mad and
Right.
hurt at the
Right.
same time. And
Yes.
I didn't wait. I didn't wait to think about it. I was just like, it was like, you hurt me, boom, then then whatever came out. And that just was not, it's never worked personally for me. And
Mhm.
for any of my clients, it doesn't work. You need to take the time.
Yeah.
I think someone said in the comments that hurt and injury are two different things.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about that? I have some thoughts, but what are your thoughts about that?
So to me, injury speaks of like a deep wound, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even though there's different levels of hurt, one could be offense. And I love the fact that you brought that up and love the fact that you said an opinion, because
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that we are offended about are people's opinions. And the
Mm-hmm.
reality is they are entitled to their opinion. Let's
Yeah.
talk about why their opinion bothers you and triggers you. Not,
Mm-hmm.
let's not try to change their opinion. Let's talk about why did it bother you so much or take you there. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really good clarification. If you have been offended, first decipher, was that an opinion or was that fact? Either
Mm-hmm.
way, you have work to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Mm-hmm.
either way, you have work to do. Now, when it relates to injury, which is deep wounds, see
Mm-hmm.
there when you talked about things that are non-negotiable and
Mm-hmm.
boundaries being crossed, listen, as far as abusive behavior and violence towards you, we're not even having a conversation. Okay? That
Mm-hmm.
is intolerable, unacceptable, and will always be. So beyond those things are to me where deep wounds lie. Everything else, I think, like we say, is figure outable.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else I feel like we can navigate. Again, not saying that we're going to be reconciled to a relationship like we had prior, but in other words, I can be at peace, as opposed to being violated or being abused by someone. That's just the deep level. and it's going to take a lot of more work and more support on my end. Always my end. I'm never looking to the individual to do anything, really. It's like, you've done enough. You've hurt me. Thank you. Now I go away and I do what I need to do, you know? So that's what I would say as far as a wound. A wound, an injury to me is like a deep wound, talking about categories like abuse and violence.
Mhm. I think also when you're injured, um, you you're a bit stuck in it, you
Mm,
know,
yes.
whether it's you choosing to stir in it or whether it's like sometimes there are some hurts that
Hmm.
can just literally make you feel paralyzed.
Yes.
And there are some, hurts and in talking about the injury aspect of it,
Hmm.
um, that can continue to get, I guess, deeper, that can continue to get just worse than what it is,
Hmm.
that it can continue to grow,
Right.
that it's a bit different because it's not where you could maybe be hurt and then it's like, oh well, that hurt my feelings. Like maybe you say something to me, right? I know you love me, like I know that, and I love you, right?
Mhm.
But we have two different personalities, right? So although we're alike in a lot of ways, there are a lot of ways that we're different. So you might say something to me and I would feel comfortable saying to you, girl, you hurt my feelings. Now that hurt my feelings. Let me tell you why. Okay. And I
Mhm.
could say that and be comfortable. We can squash it because we actually have substance in our relationship, and you will acknowledge it. You will hear me. You will correct whatever it is you need to correct. Maybe I didn't hear you in the right way. Maybe I took it the
Mhm.
wrong way, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
But an injury is something where it takes like, sometimes it takes time to heal that, and sometimes we prevent the
Mhm.
healing process
Mhm.
because we decide, I want to stir in this,
Mhm.
a bit longer. Maybe I decide that I
True.
want to become the victim,
True.
and,
Mhm.
and, and maybe that's not even my intention,
Mhm.
but maybe the response that I get from being the victim feels
Correct.
better than actually facing it.
Correct. So good. There's something that you said that I also want to bring light to, is when you have been hurt and you have expressed that to the individual, that's the perpetrator. Please do not expect them to so what I'm saying, let me get comfortable and break this down. Let me see if I can share it how I feel it. You have hurt someone that has now come to you and said, you hurt me. Your job is to listen, not fix it in that moment. That's my opinion. The
Mhm.
hurt has been done already. Don't try to muster up something from the air or in the moment to try and erase what the person is actually saying with their words. Like, acknowledge, even if you don't agree, acknowledge what they are saying, let them be heard, make sure you listen to them, and maybe that's even all you need to do. Sometimes it may call for you to apologize or just listen and understand, whatever that looks like. But I just want to make sure that if someone comes to you because you have hurt them, you listen and you don't defend yourself, because you could be making it worse for the moment, for the person, and even the situation. And even that's the reason why sometimes some situations go from hurt to injury, because
Mhm.
of how the individuals did or did not deal with it.
Yes.
Then that's what I was going to say too about unaddressed hurt. Even though I think I saw somewhere in the comments, someone said hurt is more surface. I get it. But at the end of the day, if I continue to experience hurt over and over, and I don't address the hurt, it now is a big wound and a big injury, and it's just a part of my makeup. And it did not have to be that way if I had just taken little steps with what I thought was just surface things. Because remember, one of the things I said is even with offense and hurt, why? What triggered this so much in me? It's always me, everyone. Always you. Look within. What's going on with you will always be what I encourage you to do. So that's what we talk about when we say the inner work, right? Because I've got to be better for my next experience. And if I thought something was surface, but here it comes again, is it still surface? No, because now there's another layer. So now we have more than a surface. And some people live their lives like that with unaddressed hurt, you know? And then all of a sudden they're this monster that they never intended to be. But if you had just addressed that surface thing with a simple conversation, it could have alleviated all of the emotions that have now been packed up inside of you.
So, I don't know if I would say that hurt is surfaced.
Mm-hmm.
I think a disagreement, I think a opinion, a difference of opinions. I think that could be surface, but it depends on how strongly I feel about my opinion. You know what I mean? So then maybe that stops it from being surfaced. But I think that when you say and you're clear about that you are hurt about something,
Mm-hmm.
I think that is important enough for you to address it, period. I don't think it should be treated as like, oh, well, that was just a surface kind of thing. Oh, that kind of hurt my feelings, but whatever. I think that the fact that it did hurt your feelings, that you owe yourself to sit yourself down and look at it and say, well, what about that? Have a conversation with yourself. What about that hurt me? What was it? Was it what they said? Was it what they did? Or was it a trigger for me? Or is it my sensitivities that
Right.
I'm being too sensitive about whatever the case may be? Maybe I'm not having, my mind is not open enough to understand that people are going to have different perspectives. They come from different environments. Everybody was not raised like you. We all are different in the way that we were raised. We may have some likeness, but we're different. So I just feel like any hurt that we go through, that we can label it as a hurt, that it is worth us taking a moment and just with self and just really observing that and evaluating whatever the hurt is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to make sure, and I know we're in agreement with this, that you never deny yourself healing because you think that it's not a big deal.
Yes.
It's going to show up later. It's going to show up later. I promise you, it's going to show up later. So there it is. This is good. This is really good. And it's helping me. All right.
Yes.
So what I want to talk about now is making hurt or being hurt, making an experience a lifestyle. And maybe we've talked about why that happens and how to avoid it. But one of the reasons why we say hurt people is because those kind of people make it their lifestyle to show up in or with an agenda sometimes to cause harm or hurt to others who are in their path, because I don't even believe that you have to be deeply connected to them. But perhaps you are, But let's talk about how we can not make the hurt that we have experienced in life our lifestyle of showing up hurt in other areas of our life.
Is it possible that I just say one quick
Yeah,
side note, in terms of like the levels of hurt?
sure.
You can have emotional hurt, you can have
Hmm.
physical hurt, you can
Yes,
have spiritual hurt, you
correct.
know. So sometimes when we're thinking of hurt, I think sometimes we put it in a box, and maybe that's why it gets so layered.
Hmm.
So we can have those different types of hurt, and we have to address them all because they all connect back to the bottom line of what the definition of hurt is.
Yes,
So I
yes.
just wanted to definitely say that. And one other thing that I think is really important is that hurt ends up, it can, start to show up in our physical being if
Absolutely.
it is not addressed.
Yes.
So I know I used to have a lot of stomach pain. I still do, right? But it's definitely not as bad. I was always having a stomach ache. And what I realized is that something I say all the time is that I was emotionally constipated. And so
Mhm.
because I was emotionally constipated, it showed up in real physical constipation.
Mhm.
Another thing is I hear people say a lot like I have a headache, I have a migraine.
Migraine. Yeah.
And yeah, and I just took some notes here in terms of what that really means when you have migraines and headaches. It could be that you won't allow your truth to come forward. You won't allow yourself to be authentic and live your truth. So I got a migraine, I got a headache, because
I'm
you're not balanced.
constipated.
Yeah, exactly. Same
I had
thing,
a
same
heart
thing
attack.
with, yes, I was just about to say that. The same thing with the heart, no balance, right? There's a blockage there, not centered, fighting against maybe surrendering to or fighting against what the truth really is and keeping it all inside, and maybe loving so many other people and not loving yourself. Those are all matters of the heart. So just wanted to put that in there because I know that you and I feel very passionate about hurt showing up in the physical sense.
Well, we're
So
passionate about it because it's real for us and many
yeah,
people. We
yes.
definitely have that as part of our platform, as part of our brands, but there are so many people that don't even connect the two. And I'm so glad that you remembered to bring that up, because when pain shows up in your physical body, it's because now your body is trying to protect itself.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm,
for example, when I had my heart attack, one of the things that was told to me, and I've shared it a million times, was that I bruised the lining of my heart because I allowed it to palpitate at the level that I did.
mm-hmm,
And my heart was saying, stop, please slow down, get some care. Don't do this anymore. That was like the ultimate, right? But prior to that, all the raging emotions that were going on for months was happening in my mind, right? So by the time all those unaddressed emotions and conversations that weren't had and boundaries that weren't in place, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, finally my body said, okay, let me show up now because I'm in protection mode. You are emotionally immature, you are unaware, you are unable, whatever it was. My body said, okay, it's time for me to show up, and this is how I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up in the form of a heart attack. So I'm literally going to attack you for attacking me, right? As a defense, as a protective mechanism, so that you can pay attention to the issue at hand, which is not the heart attack, right? For me, it was everything leading up to. And that's why I think it's so important that we address the small things, because the small things become big, major things
Yes.
later down the line that now become things that we should not have to handle. You know, if we had taken the time and if we had the common sense to address it. And please hear me, when I say address it, I don't always mean with the individual. Because remember, I said earlier in this broadcast, the first person that you have to reconcile with is yourself before you even talk about going to someone who you feel has hurt you. So, yes, when physical pain shows up, the body is trying to protect itself. So imagine all of us that have physical chronic pain. Could it be that somewhere, somehow we have not addressed it? Or is it like so far gone, the body's like, you know what? I'm just going to lay here and I may not get up, you know? Or what, it's like serious. For those of us that are listening in the audience, this is so serious. This is literally life and death.
Yes.
You know, and it has been death for some. So that's why inner healing is so important, because probably it started on the inside before it showed up, meaning emotionally, psychologically, before it showed up physically. Dr. Michelle and myself are definitely firsthand experienced people who can tell you how important it is to address the small things as it relates to hurt, wounds, injury, pain, whatever you want to call it. Address it, because if you don't, years, you know, I told my daughter the other day, I told her, I said, everything does not happen in moments, but everything happens in time.
Yeah.
So for the moment, it may seem like not a big deal. I'll take care of this. But over time, it becomes, I should have taken care of this. And that's all of us. You know, I'm feeling convicted even as I'm sharing, you know, and I'm feeling empathy for myself and those of us that feel like we are powerless to address even when our body is defending itself, because it's been so far gone with the hurt that we've allowed to continue by the hands of either ourselves or other people. I'm done. I'm done. I'm just like, I need to Selah for a minute in that, you know?
Well, listen, you have, you know, you know, I mean, and she knows what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling in this moment. And through you saying that, I felt the same way too, in terms of conviction, because, you know, as I think about all of the health, you know, challenges I have had, and connecting the dots with it, you know, when you're a cancer survivor, that's like, you know, a parasite in your body, you know, it spreads, it's poison, it could spread, it's poison if you don't do what you need to do, right? So that's one part of it. And when I think about that, I think about, wow, there was so many parasites that was in my life at that time. And I didn't delete, I didn't reset, I didn't do any of it. I almost became a part of the parasite because I was just kind of paralyzed in it. I knew I was poisoned, you know, just by whether it was hearing stuff, feeling stuff, whatever. And I think about that. I think about the nerve damage that I have now, you know, and how that connects to the stuff that you either hold on to or that you respond to, or that you have just forgotten every single response of whatever and react to it, you know, it all connects with basically your health. And it's your
Absolutely.
health. Like, even when you have pain, I had a doctor tell me this, and I just thought he had lost his mind. He says, why do you look at the pain as like, like this big bad enemy? I'm like, because it is, because I'm hurt and I'm in pain. You know how much pain I'm in. And he says, well, but it's actually the body saying, hello, trying to give you a signal, to do this or to do that, but you keep on just not listening. Yeah. So now that you want to be hard-headed like this, I'm going to go ahead and now instead of a little whisper, I'm about to scream. And you are going to feel the effects of my scream, right? Yeah. So anyways, as you were saying what you were saying, I got to get off this call. When we finish, I'm about to do some more reconciling.
The work never ends. The work never ends,
It never ends, right?
Talking, I remember we always say, guess what? Pain is information. It's not a bad thing. Now, listen, there's some mail that we don't want to open. Doesn't mean that you didn't receive it. You received that mail today. You probably have an idea what's in that envelope. Okay. Just because you ignore it does not mean it's going away. So pain is information. So whether that is emotional pain or physical, it's all information. And when we think about it that way, that helps, right? Because the next thing is a decision and a choice.
Yes, there you go.
What are you going to do with that information? There's, how they say there's layers to this, there's levels to this. There's levels to this. And that's why we're talking about cultivating, because it's impossible for you to just get it. You have to have some life experience. You have to have some mistakes under your belt. And a need and a desire to want to go higher and to be better as far as showing up in the world as a healthy person, which is not going to happen in a moment, but over time, doing what you need to do, absolutely, you'll be on your way. That's what makes you powerful, because you choose to do the inner work necessary to show up in a way that resides with the peace that people want. I just said something right there.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you all the way did. Wow. Yeah, because when we're healthy, our decision making is different. It's just going to be different from when we are unhealthy. When we are unhealthy, we are going to make decisions from that space. So if we are anxious and we are desperate, we are going to make those types of decisions, right? But I believe that we can make a decision, but the execution of it is our choice. Are we going to execute that decision, or because when we start going through the execution of maybe that decision, we go, oh, this is not right. This is not good. This is not going to be good for me or the other person, right? And so then we decide, well, maybe we make a different choice. That's why it's so powerful that we actually have a choice. You can still change your mind. Now, the person that has hurt as a lifestyle that intentionally hurts others, right? The people that we talked about last or 2 weeks ago, those people, I believe, they make the decision and execute the choice. And then they don't really have, and maybe they don't even have the tools, but they don't then have the empathy for what they just did. No, because now it's become a lifestyle. It's like, that's just what I do. That's just who I am. That's different from the person that's like experiencing hurt. So you can be a healthy person overall, and we're meaning healthy in your thinking, in your actions, right? That doesn't mean, like Michelle said in the beginning, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get hurt. As long as you keep living, you will experience some type of hurt. But I believe that a healthy person that has not made hurt their lifestyle or have
Yeah.
not chosen to be a victim of the hurt, their decision making is different and their choices are different.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. And, no matter what it is, unfortunately, I wish there were categories that I could say, well, that's excusable, but unfortunately, no matter what that hurt is, you have a responsibility to seek your own healing as
Yes.
well as not be a perpetrator and to continue the pattern, the pattern, the pattern, the pattern, you know. And there are some situations that are so traumatic that we can absolutely have empathy for. We think about the 5-year-old that's been molested. I mean, you know what I mean? But at some point, hopefully on that individual's journey, they come to a place, whether by support, knowledge, understanding, the Holy Spirit, where they can say, I'm not in control. I was just as I was not then. I'm still not in control of what happened. But moving forward, because I can have empathy, maybe, for the individual and what was going on with them. Because here's the thing about people that hurt people. Sometimes they don't have the tools to not hurt people. They
Yeah.
don't have the tools. They don't know
Right.
what the tools are. No one shared what the tools are. Sometimes people and society have labeled people, and people have not even had a chance to break out of a bad label that has been placed on them. Everything that I just said is empathy, right? And it's
Yes.
not for everyone, but there are sometimes people that hurt people don't have the tools. That's not to say just because you don't have the tools, come and, sit at my table.
Right.
I'm just saying that because I have the awareness of who you are. So then I have the boundary of how much I allow you in my space. I think there needs to be harmony there, right? I don't like using the word balance, but even for people who you were absolutely not in control of what happened to you, you still have to get on a path of finding your way to a better place, higher place of level of thinking, of being, of acting, of your choices. Because what happens is you will inadvertently help and hurt and perpetrate that hurt on other people that you don't intend to hurt. That's
Yeah.
the thing about not healing. You
Mm-hmm.
end up hurting people that you don't want to hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Mm-hmm.
continues. The cycle continues. So someone has to say to themselves, it stops with me,
Yes.
or a new process is going to begin with me, even if it's every day. Learning to
Yes.
find your voice and using your voice. And, every day you're thinking, is this worth it? Do they have the capacity? And, whatever that looks like. But we all have to do it so that it's not perpetrated
Mm-hmm.
among, the relationships and our connections.
Yes. I love what you said about, being accountable every day. I find that I have to do that like every day. And sometimes it feels like, when does it ever end? It's just so much work. Sometimes
Yeah.
it feels like, dang, do I need this much work? Because I am very accountable to different encounters, or just why I reacted in the where or responded in the way that I did, or why maybe did I just become silent in a situation, and,
Mm-hmm.
and then really say to myself, well, why did you become silent? What happened there? You were so talkative and then you stopped. What
Mm-hmm.
was it
Mm-hmm.
about that conversation? And
Mm-hmm.
then once I really get to the bottom line of what it is, because I really try to not look at the other person. Sometimes it's difficult, you know what I mean? Because sometimes it's just so blatant. But I really try to really look at what part did I have in that, because
Always.
sometimes it's me allowing the behavior because I just may not have the strength that day. I'm too tired to deal with the shenanigans, But I also made the choice with my silence to allow that person to think that it was okay.
That's
And
it.
then they continue.
Oh
So
my God.
now about the fourth time. And so now when I react, they're like, wait, what did I do? I'm
I
like, you've done
didn't
it
know
like
you
five
didn't like that.
times.
Yes, I
But
didn't know
that's
you didn't like
me.
that.
That's
Yeah.
on me. I didn't say anything
Yes.
about it. Maybe I just was too tired. Maybe I didn't want to deal with it. Maybe I know how you are, and I just did not want to deal with everything that you bring into a situation when I feel that it could just be a simple conversation, you know? So, but
Right.
it's so true. We got to be accountable every day. And that's why it's so important about the self-love and the self-care, because you owe yourself that. You really do. You got to reconcile with you first, and then everything else comes after that.
Everything else comes after that, and we dare not expect more of others than we do ourselves. That's
Yes,
the bottom line, you
the
know,
bottom line. Yeah.
because you could, even in the things that have been done to us, we must even ask ourselves in all the questions that we're asking and all the assessment that we do. We have to ask ourselves, do I show up like that? Have I ever done that? Is that so familiar to me? Is that something that I dislike in myself? And so when I see it in somebody else, it really triggers what I need to work on within my own self. It's like on and on and on. But these
Yeah.
are the
No, no, no,
questions
no. Say
that,
that, say that, say that one more time, because I know the people in the back and in the midsection did not hear that. So
which
say
part,
that just one more time, because that
which
was a
part?
whole.
Because there were two things you wanted me to say to the people in the back. Like, what did I post the other day? You said,
Oh, yeah,
you
say
said
that.
you said make sure that just because Jesus or God is working on you or you are a work in progress does not mean you need to act like the devil. Okay. That is not, you are inexcusable. Do you know that there's a verse in the Bible that says, in my own words, you have been found to be inexcusable. Okay.
Yes,
So that's it. You are without excuse. You don't get to
right.
show up as the devil with a knife, telling me you're a work in progress with a knife in my back. What are you
Yes.
doing? I need you to take that process back to your corner.
Over there.
And when you are all together, then show up healthy as
Yes,
I'm trying to be healthy. Okay. So I know
right.
you wanted that to be said to the people in the back.
I
But
did. I
what
did.
else? What else are we telling the people in the back? Because
Oh my gosh, it was just what you said. Like literally, you said such a mouthful, and then it literally just slipped my mind. Oh my God. But when you go back and listen to
yeah,
this, and I
yeah.
go back and listen to it, I'm literally I'm gonna post it like really big on my stories when I go back and listen to it. But it was something that you said, and it penetrated so deep, So I'm
Yeah,
gonna have
yeah,
to go back and listen to it. Yeah,
yeah.
it was great.
So, next time we're together, we are going to be talking even more about how to navigate hurt. And, your book is on self vows, right? And
Yeah.
so, honoring yourself with certain vows that you give to others, but that's a reconciliation, right? Of self, making
Mhm.
sure that you do those things within first. That's your first priority, because that will even allow, you said it, you to have a different mindset as it relates to who you choose to be a part of your life.
Yeah.
You can't help, the stranger danger that just
Mhm.
goes off on you. You have no substance, you have no history with them, and that's them. Someone has allowed them to continue to do that, right? You have no part in that, only if you allow it. Or
Yeah.
only if you don't address it within yourself, So we're going to talk about even more how to navigate hurt, because it's such a deep topic. There's deep hurt. There's all kind of levels of hurt that we have all experienced. But I really think this was informative. I think this was a great part 2. And I can't wait for part 3. So do you have any more final comments or anything that you want to share at this point?
Yeah, I just love you and thank you for sharing the space, with me. And that it's beautiful when you can have a real genuine, friendship and absolute sisterhood. We go way back, and you are just even you couldn't even say you wasn't a pastor or a preacher and convince anybody of that, because that is just who you are. And so you have spoken to my soul. You've spoken to my emotions tonight, my heart, and you have got me in check, all in one, because that's the beauty of when it's real sisterhood. Because she didn't even know, but she was saying something. I was like, okay, do we got to stay on that? Can we move it on?
Right.
You know what I mean? But I took it, I breathed it in, and then of course, I'm going to get off of here, and I'm going to deal with it, because I'm not going to allow it to go into tomorrow. I totally give myself do-overs every day, but sometimes there may be some things that are just hiding, that I just may not really honestly be aware of. So I thank you for all of that tonight. And I really appreciate that, because it wasn't just us speaking to the people. It was absolutely my soul and my heart and all of that you spoke to tonight. So, I got some work to do,
All of us. I'm telling you, it's unending. And I appreciate you just always helping me and just showing up with me. I saw when there was a shift. And I think what happened in part 2, so this is kind of like our after conversation, and they're just like eavesdropping, and that's okay. Right. But what happened last week, because the subject is so sensitive and personal and live for us. Last week, it was kind of like I was so on edge, but you know what? Somewhere in the conversation, I said, you know what? It's like I'm talking to Michelle on the phone. We're just going to go for what we know, and it's going to resonate. And I'm telling you, based on the comments and the interaction, I think we accomplished that. And I can only do that for sure, 100% with you. And so I so appreciate you for that. And I'm looking forward to our next conversation. Part 3, everybody, is coming up in 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. And I want you to look out for that. And please invite those that have hurt you, those that you know experienced hurt, so that they can get the information for the pain that they project and the pain that they experience, because that's all of us somewhere in between there. So I want to thank you all for just tuning in. Shout out to the replay viewers. Please reshare this. Please comment if something resonated with you. It could help someone else. By all means, I do want to highlight my latest book, Reboot. Reboot was the catalyst for this space here to help us to cultivate healthy responses to life's experiences, especially those that are outside of our control. Sounds like we're in this for the long run, guys. There's no quick fix here, and that's how God designed it. So until next time, Coach Michelle Collins and Dr. Michelle Hanna signing off, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye.